Hey fans of M&A, thanks for tuning in to another episode of M&A Sports Radio, and if you haven't already, please hit subscribe on your favorite podcast app.
While you're in there, leave us a rating, add a comment. We appreciate the feedback. Thank you for tuning in, M&A Sports Radio. Tonight's M&A Sports Sitdown. This week is Final Four weekend. A lot of memorable national championship games. Through our childhood, AJ, I think you'd agree with me. Tonight I really want to talk about, more than anything, I guess you could say the last 20, 25 years. Let's just say our lifetime. Some of them
Sure.
I think we are a little too young to reminisce on. But I'm going to start when 99, Duke UConn. You look at the players who played in that game for both teams.
Yeah.
Trajan Langdon, who's actually now... works in the front office for the Cleveland Cavaliers. You look at...
I didn't know that.
Yes, he does. You look at Elton Brand, who played in the league, too. Trajan Langdon played in the league for a while. William Avery played on that team, was a first-round pick. Corey Maggette was a freshman on that Duke team. Shane Battier was on that Duke team. That was the first Duke team, I think, to have 4 players drafted in the first round. Then you look across, and you look at UConn. That's the year of Hamilton! They go out and they beat Washington in that memorable game. Then they have a guy like Rip Hamilton on that team. They have a guy named Jake Voskuhl. I don't know if you remember. He played for the Suns.
Okay, yeah.
Khalid Al-Amin was the point guard. So they had some players there. They weren't as good as Duke. Duke had lost. I think Duke was 37-1 coming into that game. Duke's only loss that year was to Cincinnati. Cincinnati had Kenyon Martin, and that team was number 1 most of the way. Kenyon Martin actually broke his leg, and that's pretty much why they ran out of gas that year. Side note, but about this game, there was so much hype around Duke and how they could be remembered as one of the great teams of all time. And it just seemed like that night UConn wasn't going to let it happen.
Yeah.
When you have a certain player like Rip Hamilton, I think a word that comes to mind is pride. They get up for these moments. And when you have a guy that's a gamer like him, and Khalid Al-Amin was a guy...
That was the first one for UConn, too.
Yeah, and Khalid Al-Amin was a guy who wasn't scared to mix it up and bang. And it was one of those things as a fan. Since I was 9 years old, and to this day I can vividly remember how upset I was because they'd been so good. And you're still young, you know what I mean? It means so much. You expect to win, and that's one that really sticks out to me. You got another game that sticks out to you?
03, I mean, Cuse, Kansas, the talent on the floor between Kansas, Heinrich, Collison, those guys. And then on the other side, obviously, Carmelo, GMAC as a freshman. Hakeem Warwick was the 4. Hakeem Warwick's huge block down the stretch. Cuse wins 81-78 over Roy Williams' Kansas team. Boeheim's championship. I mean, that was such a great game.
It's funny. There's specific moments in time, like you mentioned
the
one.
Block.
Yeah, the block is the moment that sticks out more than anything to me. But you think about the stretch in that game where I think McNamara hit 6 threes in the first half.
It's amazing.
Craig Forth, actually, who was the center on that team.
Jerry McNamara's a hell of a player.
Yeah.
That was 4 years later, but
do you remember?
Not overrated.
Craig Forth, he was
Yes.
the center on that team. He was actually from Columbia, which is like 15 or 20 minutes from my house. It's where my aunt taught. She's retired now, but fun fact there. So it's funny because I never thought he was that good, and he really wasn't that good, but he's a 7-footer, got himself a national championship. And a degree from Syracuse. So what can I say? And that's a game that really sticks out in my mind. A lot of tremendous players on the floor, and what a memorable moment. And honestly, as good as Melo's been in the league, you could say that was the pinnacle of his career.
That's fair.
There's still some time to do it. He can go get a ring.
But that's
his
not
stock
a knock,
was
though.
So, I mean, he had such a knock? That run was such a run.
Yeah, that was the thing. He played to
you
an
could argue
level.
like him coming into the league, like you wanted him because he had that it factor.
Yeah.
Now, would you say he has that it factor? No.
That's fair.
He can't carry himself. He carried that team by himself.
Yeah.
He cannot carry.
He never
this team
really
by
did it in the league.
No,
but he did do it in college.
But that just shows you the difference in talent pool.
That's very true. Very true.
Next one for me here, I'm going to touch on is 2008. I think we think about Memphis, Derrick Rose, Mario Chalmers, and the key moment in that game being the missed free throws down the stretch.
Oh.
It was Memphis lost one game during the course of that regular season. It was to Tennessee. Chris Lofton.
It was 1 versus 2.
Yes, it was a huge game, but the free throws didn't bother them. They just got outplayed that
Dozier,
night.
Dorsey, Chris Douglas Roberts, Derrick Rose. What a team.
They were loaded. They had talent, all NBA players all over the floor. And you looked at Kansas, and they hung in all night. They had, they had players.
Really
Cole Aldridge, Darren, they had Collison there. They had Mario Chalmers. They had players.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, when Memphis could have put it away, they missed the huge free throws, and that was their Achilles heel all year. John Calipari kept saying, we're going to hit them when we need to, and they didn't.
They didn't.
Mario Chalmers made them pay, and the rest is history. And that game sticks out to me. It'll be 8 years ago this spring now, and I can remember it like it was yesterday.
It was such a great game.
Such a great game. What's your next game for you?
Duke Butler 2010. Gordon Hayward has a heave at the end to win it. Rims out. Duke wins a national championship. A lot of unsung heroes on the team. I think Brian Zubek had honestly, this is a ridiculous statement, but he set some of the best screens I've ever seen in basketball.
No, he had moments.
He really did. He was excellent in the facet and the role that he got formed into that year. And that whole team, they were playing really well. And then the Butler run was unbelievable. I think, wasn't VCU in the Final Four that year as well? I'm trying to remember.
Not 100% positive.
I
think it was 2011. It was 2011. Yeah, it was 2011.
So one of the years. But Butler, that unbelievable run to get to within one shot and one heave, and then Duke winning. It was a really good game.
It's one of those things you remember for sure. No doubt about that. I think more than anything, when you think about that final, the run that Butler went on, they were a school from Indiana. The Final Four was in Indianapolis.
Yep.
They were an 8 seed. They had a special type of moment. And then that shot at the end sticks out almost as much or more than the Duke win.
Yeah.
Even though I'm happy they won the national championship, you remember that. You remember that more than anything. It's just really weird. It's one of those moments that sticks out. Another game to me, obviously special to me. My team wins the national championship. But the more time goes on, I heard someone talk about this recently. I think it was Colin Cowherd. He said that Butler team was special. You look back at it now, Brad Stevens was the head coach. Gordon Hayward's a max player in the NBA. Shelvin Mack played in the NBA.
Very good player.
Not to take anything away. In the moment, that was as good as a story as you could have. But Butler's not a Cinderella anymore. They're a heavyweight. They play in the Big East. They were an at-large 9 seed this year. They're under 500 in their conference. So that's a really good point. It's Gonzaga. I don't want to hear Gonzaga's I would have killed to have Wilcher and Sabonis on Duke this year. Don't tell me Gonzaga's an underdog when they went to the Sweet 16. If anything, they underachieved. I thought they were a top 15 team preseason. They still went to the Sweet 16. You redeem yourself, but I don't know. That's just me. Sorry, I really tailed off there.
That's fine.
I ranted a little bit. If I got drop some knowledge on somebody, hopefully it worked out. The last game I want to talk about here is recent as last year, 2015, Duke, Wisconsin. I think the everlasting image being when Tyus Jones hits the 3 late and he starts to celebrate and you kind of know Duke's going to win this game. And the back story to go with that is Duke's down 9 or 10 with 10 minutes to go. It seemed over. Joel Okafor was in foul trouble. They couldn't get it going. And Tyus Jones, whenever they needed a moment where they needed someone to take over, they had a guy like Winslow who could be effective without necessarily getting a shot off. Okafor was in trouble. When they played Kaminsky both times last year, he was in trouble, and Tyus Jones bailed him out. Emil Jefferson played a big role. Maybe that's what hampered Duke this year, with not having him there.
Yeah.
But they had glue guys, Quinn Cook being the senior. They had a lot of guys, and they made it work, and they made a memorable comeback for, as a fan, I think even you root for Duke, but people who are watching the game, they think, wow, Duke did it again.
Yeah.
They had an 8-man rotation. Their best player, the number 3 pick in the draft, gets in foul trouble, and they find a way to get it done. That sticks out to me. And they beat a team with Frank Kaminsky and Sam Decker, a team that had 2 legitimate pros.
Very good.
And then Bronson Koenig, who's got the experience hitting big shots, Nigel Hayes, who's still a player. That team made a run to the Sweet 16 this year. Should have been in the Elite 8. Really let one get away from them there. But that's my third and final game. Your thoughts about that game?
I mean, that was an awesome game.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Awesome game. Grayson Allen was spectacular.
And I didn't even get to that. Think about it. I'm just glaring over it.
He was spectacular.
He's the reason they won the game. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. As big as Ty's moments were. That's all we have for you tonight on this M&A Sports Sit-Down March Madness edition, Final Four. Make sure you tune into the games, and make sure you tune into more M&A Sports Sit-Downs. See ya.